Hi, welcome. My name is Debbie with Cakes to Celebrate, and today we're going to finish making our Valentine sugar cookies for your favorite Valentine. We've already baked them. We're going to be decorating today, and I'm going to walk you through all the steps to the decorating. If you find this video useful, please like it, subscribe, ring the bell, and make any comments below. So now I'm going to be going over the ingredients I use to decorate these beautiful Valentine cookies. I start with meringue powder, powdered sugar, and water to create the royal icing. And the way I do that is by taking 3 tablespoons of meringue powder, a pound of powdered sugar with 6 tablespoons of water, and then you mix it either with a hand mixer or your stand mixer. I think it's about 10 minutes that you go ahead and do that. And for the royal icing recipe, you can click on the link below. So we're going to go over the tools I have here. Just a measuring spoon, some offset spatulas, regular spatula, some disposable piping bags, bowls, a 4 tip and a number 2 tip, some fun little nonpareils, some sprinkles, red color, pink, and a little fuchsia. So the first thing I'm going to do is take some of my prepared royal icing, give it a little stir. And what I want to do with this is reserve some in a piping bag. And the reason I'm doing this is because I have a certain consistency, and I kind of equate this to like the consistency of toothpaste, believe it or not, because you want it thick. You don't want it runny. What this is going to do for us is be our dam to hold our flooded cookie royal icing in place. So we start out just cutting off the tip of a decorating bag, kind of inch that number 4 tip down. I make a little cuff in the bag. Bring my hand under it, and then just kind of scoop some of this into the bag. And we'll wrap this up and set it aside. Now, one thing with royal icing, it does dry out, so you want to work relatively quickly. But just keep in mind that if you left this container open and came back to it a little while later, even 5 minutes, it would definitely crust. And the longer it sits out, the more it changes its consistency, and you may not be able to use it for future decorating. So what we're going to do now is take our thickened royal icing in a mixing bowl, and we're going to color it. And what I'm making here is the royal icing that is going to flood our cookie. And that's a classic way to decorate sugar cookies. But as you can see, this is not runny. It's very thick still. So that's where I'm going to be coming in and just watering it down with some water till I get the correct consistency. You can always go back and make it a little bit more runny, but you can't thicken it quite as easily. So you kind of want to just add a little bit at a time. If you do make a mistake maybe and make it a little too runny, you can always add powdered sugar. That will thicken it up. And there's a little rule that we use. So you take the spatula and let it drip back onto itself. And you want about a 3-second interval for it to go back down into itself. Then you kind of have an idea that you have the right consistency. And now that I have the right consistency, what I'm going to do is I'm going to color it. And I like the idea of making the majority of the cookie design pink. So I'm going to go with my AmeriColor soft pink gel and add some food coloring to it. Mix it up. And hopefully we have a really nice, pretty pink here. And I really like that color right now. So get it nice and stirred. And it's ready for flooding. But before I do that, what I'm going to do is I get it in another disposable piping bag. Make my cuff. And for flooding, I don't use a tip. I just cut off the tip of the bag and use it that way. It makes it a little bit easier for cleanup, and then you don't have quite as much time involved. It's nice, it does the same as a tip would do. Hey, look what I found. I can really use this right now, just in the nick of time. So what I use this for, it's actually a hollow cylinder, and I put my uncut decorating bag, it's kind of like my third hand in a way. I just kind of roll it down the side, and then I can use both hands to scrape out the rest of my royal icing without making a huge mess. And that way I get it all out of the bowl and I'm ready to go. How's that for magic? So the next color we're going to mix will be the red. And I'm not going to make a whole lot of red. And a lot of times, the reason why I don't is if you add a lot of food coloring to the red, it can make it bitter. So you got to be kind of careful with it. So I use it sparingly. But it is fun to have another color. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the red. And I'm not going to flood with this. I'm going to use this as an accent to do my piping and any of the decorations. So I don't have to thin it like to make it for flooding. I'm just going to go ahead and pipe with it. But I do want to mix the red. Now when I use red, this is a little bit different. It is a black cap, and that indicates that it is actually an airbrushing red. And the reason I like that is it's, as you can see, it's very runny as opposed to the gel we just used. And I just find it incorporates into the coloring. I don't have to use as much, and I get a really good result with the airbrush red. That's just my little tip that I've found over the years that works for me. So we've got this ready to go. Our piping red. I'm gonna grab another bag here, get it ready, get my cuff again. And I have another tip here. This is my number 2 tip. Drop it in the bag. Just give a little snip at the end. Inch that tip down. Got my handy cylinder here. I'm gonna start with that first. Kind of lay my bag around that. And now I have 2 hands that I can work with. And I can get my red royal icing right into the bag. Nice and quick, nice and neat. And we're ready to go. So now we're ready to pipe with our thick royal icing. And this will get us ready for the flooding. So we're just going to outline where we want the royal icing to hold our flooding. And the nice thing about this is you can go through and decorate quite a few cookies. And that, what we want to do is let this kind of harden a little bit, so it just makes a really nice border for us. So we'll just kind of start picking up these cookies, creating some nice borders, so when we come back, we'll be ready to flood. And sometimes my piping isn't exactly what I like. So as you can see here, I didn't quite get that rounded, nice border as the other side. So you can always go in with a little paintbrush. Make sure it's designated for food. You don't want to have your children painting with this. You definitely want to just reserve it for food. But you can take this, dip it in a little bit of water, not too wet, and then you can just kind of correct your line. And that happens all the time. But what's nice is you can always go back and make it to your liking before it dries. Now's the time to do it. You can't do it once it dries. So that looks a little bit better. And once it gets the royal icing, you won't even notice it. So the next thing I'm going to do is pipe that little inner part, which can be kind of tricky, but I'll give it a shot. So I let my icing just fall from the bag. Oh boy. So this is where the paintbrush and water really comes in handy. So I didn't do such a great job, but that's okay. I can fix it and I can make it look exactly how I want it. Kind of a little bit of touch up and I'm good to go. Looks pretty good to me. So I'll set this aside and it'll dry nicely till I'm ready to flood. Now this cookie I'm going to have a little fun with here with my piping. I'm going to do something a little bit more creative. So I'm going to start with a little bit more inner heart. I'm not going to do the outline. I'm going to go inside just a little bit to allow for some other piping around it. So I'm going to start inside. Kind of keeping in mind an even border along the edge. Again, letting the icing fall from the bag. Again, my sides are off just a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and even them out before I continue. Just kind of push that royal icing into place in the areas that I feel it needs. And if your royal icing is sticking to your brush, it means you need just a little bit more water on it. And this is the time, like I said, to go over any imperfections and make things a little bit more even. You don't have to do it perfect the first time. You can always work with it. Sometimes they come out perfect the first time. It's great. Sometimes they don't. But it's always easy to fix. So now my next design is going to be a little scallop border on the outside of my cookie. And the nice thing about working on like a piece of parchment paper is I can turn my cookie in many different directions without actually touching it and possibly damaging what I've piped. So I'm going to just start and doing everything freehand, so it just makes it kind of fun to do this little border. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just adds another little fun decorative touch. Our next step is going to be flooding. We've got our cookies piped with our borders, and now we're ready to flood. So what I usually do is I cut a small snip at the end of the bag to start, because this is a lot runnier, so it's going to be a little bit more tricky to control. I can always make the snip opening larger, but I'd rather err on the side of caution and go a little bit less. So as you can see now, what I'll do is I'm actually going to just be doing exactly what I said, and that is flooding and filling in the cookie with the royal icing. I also use the tip of my bag to kind of push the icing around to where I want it to go, up against that border, and just kind of move it around. The nice thing about royal icing is remember how we talked about that rule of how to judge the thickness is when it rests back into itself, it's like a 3-second delay. And as you can see now, it's all nice and smooth, ready to dry a little bit more, and then we'll decorate. And we'll just continue on piping. So this one's kind of fun. It's got lots of little scallops, so we got to get in between those areas first, kind of move our icing around, and once the pink goes up against the white, it's really, really cute. I mean, who wouldn't want to eat one of these? They're adorable and they are wonderful gifts. So again, I'm moving my royal icing around with my decorating bag. And you kind of have to eyeball your flooding. You don't want it too much or it will definitely flood over your design, and you don't want that. So you do have to pay attention to how much you're putting. So this one's going to get a fair amount, so I can, really kind of start a little bit thicker line around the outside, kind of push it up against that white, give it a little guidance. And I use my parchment paper to rotate the cookie. That way I'm not having to reach over the cookie and possibly have a little problem there. So I'm going to get a little bit extra, push it around, and then it smooths out because it's just the perfect consistency. So that's how you know you've got it right, when you're able to work with it, dab it around, and it smooths back after you're finished. And that means you have the perfect consistency for flooding, and your cookie's going to be nice and smooth when you finish. And then we'll let this dry. Another easy design is just to go ahead and flood the cookie get a lot on there, we'll go real fast. You can zip these out pretty quick. I'm kind of taking my time just so that I can show you how I do it. And then once you get the knack of doing it, you can actually go pretty quick. Doesn't take long at all. And so what I'm going to show you on this cookie is how you can just add some sprinkles without even piping, and it's super cute. So I'm going to get it nice and even. And I want to add my sprinkles while it's wet, otherwise they won't stick. So these are my little nonpareils. They're super cute, and I can just add some really fun color and sprinkles right to the top, and then they'll stick on top. You can put as little as you like or as much as you like, and they come out super cute. No piping involved. This is a great thing to have your kids do because it looks really, really cute and it's super, super easy. You can even get a little crazy, go with a little bit heavier type sprinkle. These are really super cute. They've got sprinkles, pearls, and little heart-shaped decorations as well. You can maybe even go in with those, kind of fill in a little bit more. These are really cute too. And they really dress up the cookie. Super quick and really cute. So this little guy's done. So the next step in decorating these cookies, we're gonna add some piping, which is really, really pretty. I'm gonna take my flooded cookie and just draw some scrolls or pipe some scrolls and so forth. So we'll just kind of see where we go with this. It's gonna be freehand. Go ahead and add a little bit more detail, maybe some little piping dots. So now we'll try a little bit of red and see how that looks. How Valentine's is that? I think I'm going to go back and add some red to this one. There we go. How cute is that? Well, you can go to town with these dots. I don't. Sometimes the more you put on, the cuter it gets. It really just depends on how much time you have and how much fun you want to have. But dots go a long way. They make the cookie super cute. Our cookies are finished being decorated and now they're ready to be given to your Valentine. If you found this video useful, make sure you like it, subscribe, and ring the bell. And we love any comments below.